When I looked at this inventory, and when I see what's behind my lust, I'm scared. And I'm scared what I see in Roy, what I saw in Roy R. in Nashville. Very few people know. They know the story that he's now doing life for a brutal sex murder in Nashville. He was the founder of the Nashville SA Group. Very few people know his real story. And I guess I'm going to tell you that just for a minute. Excuse me. There's something new. There's something new in the air with lust in our time since World War II. I've seen the rise of pornography. I'm 66 years of age, and I've driven the pornography curve. I've driven the lust curve. I've helped drive it, and I've seen there's something new. There's an exponential curve, and it's a spiritual curve, and it's in the air we breathe, and we're part of that. It's a cultural phenomenon. It's not just a personal sex addiction phenomenon, and I call it the new lust. Anyhow, this man came to our 1983. I believe it was 83, our third conference in Simi Valley, and he flew all the way from Nashville just to be in an SA meeting. There was very little SA then, and he was a young man, single, and he collared Kevin and me after a meeting, and he said, "I've got a real problem. I want to kill my girlfriend." And Kevin and I were. He was from Dallas, and we were totally unexperienced with this. It came out in our conversation that he knew he was possessed by a demon. And the demon, I'm telling you what he told us, wanted to kill. And it would leave him and come. And we didn't know how to cope with that. It's something we don't have in our 12 steps. And it turns out that in our presence, he tried to cast it out himself. And we saw this young man suddenly convulse and go through impossible contortions. His body was whipping around. Kevin and I were taking the furniture out of the way so he wouldn't break his neck. There's no way an acrobat could go through all of that tremendous convulsion and the contortions and flipping around. It was just, we were just absolutely mortified. Didn't know what to do. And he stopped, and it was like he was dead. And we thought he had died. I thought he had broken his neck. And his pulse was still there, and pretty soon he came to, and he was a transformed person. And he prayed and gave glory to God. And we're here, Kevin and I are just standing there. And anyhow, at the end of the story is we're leaving the room. No one else has seen or knows about this. We're leaving the room. He goes outside the door. I see him take a pack of cigarettes, get a cigarette, and light it up. And I just felt a darkness come in. And I said, "Roy," and he said, "It's back."
It's back.
And it was, whatever it was. Now see, I don't understand that. But I know that why was I doing U-turns on the main boulevard in this city of ours, chasing prostitutes? Why did I pray to Satan? Why, with a Christian, why was I praying to Satan that I could get to that girl first? So this is an insidious thing. I open myself, I don't know about your story, but I open myself to a power, a negative force, that has changed me. And that invests the natural sexual instinct or attraction or whatever it is with something that I don't understand but is more powerful than I am. So I'm afraid of lust. I'm afraid of what it did to me. The first prayer I could pray in my sobriety was, I was doing substitute teaching at Royal High School, and the skirts and the girls and I was full of, it's just going to AA meetings and I'd say, "I'm powerless, please help me." That's all I could pray. I put all of the theology and all of the churchianity and all of the religion aside. That had all passed away, nothing, and it was all gone, and all I had was the AA program and that prayer, "I'm powerless." All I knew about the 12-step program was the first step, that word powerless. was the one thing I identified with, and I got through. Just one miracle at a time, an unbelievable miracle at a time. That was doing it the hard way, and I slipped after a year and a half, and the darkness really hit. I crossed a really dark line in that last sex drunk of 3 months. Now, I'm going to skip to the decisive turning point in my lust history. This is a few years later. Essay has started. It's in my garage. The central office is in my garage. And here I'm going to the Chatsworth post office with a big arm of literature or whatever, packages and letters and stuff answered. And go into the post office, happy, joyous, and free, and everything. Long line. And who's in front of me? The most powerful trigger I can possibly have. Okay, there she is, right in front of me. It's summer. See-through flimsy dress. Okay. Trigger. That's what we need more of. That's what we need more of. We can have meetings, or we just listen to people staring at their navel and say, "Oh boy, I'm telling you, it's oh boy." Or I got to share Calvin and Hobbes with you. Okay, they're walking along in the forest, and Hobbes is following Calvin. Calvin says, "Nothing I do is my fault. My family is dysfunctional. My parents won't empower me. Consequently, I am not self-actualized. My behavior is addictive, functioning in a diseased process of toxic codependency. I need holistic healing and wellness before I'll accept responsibility for my actions." And Hobbes says, "One of us needs to stick his head in a bucket of cold water." That doesn't penetrate. Calvin has the last line. I love the victim. I love the culture of victimhood. Where was I? Okay, only a lustaholic knows the hell. Only a recovering, sexually sober lustaholic knows the hell of temptation, and knows the hell of temptation. And there it was. Now that was the image. The figure was bad enough, plus being 6 inches behind. But this dear young woman must have had our illness because she was flipping her head around. It was the unconscious need to connect. Do you want to know what do we all know what we're saying here? No. The toss. Okay. Right. And it's the same thing. And so that it's on a silver platter, trying to connect. And of course she's trying to connect with me, right?
Well.
We are egocentric devils. And I started immediately. I said, "I'm powerless. Please help me." And went through the exercises, and I was surviving. I wasn't drinking. Thank God, I didn't take the drink. Just right 6 inches in front, the most toxic drink, whatever. And I was, hoping the line would move fast and everything, going fine. And then I dropped my keys. Right in front of me. I just went catatonic. I just froze, because I knew eventually unless somebody did it for me. I would have to reach down and pick up those keys. And then in doing so, my eyes would be open, and that I did not have the power in me to shield myself from that poison that was still in me. Not in that image, not in that person. Being triggered by that, however. Plus, in some of us, there is a spiritual force, a spiritual exchange that is really spiritual. And we do put out a vibe. We do put out, I think sometimes I still unconsciously put out a radiation that a woman will pick up, or a man will pick up. And when I crossed the gender line in my acting out and discovered homosexual lust, that a whole new area was opened up for me that I had totally been unaware of before. Okay, here I was. What did I do? I just couldn't do anything. I stayed there for an eternity doing nothing because I was frozen. And eventually, the line's going to move and people are going to think, what's wrong with this man? So I just said, it was just one of those voiceless, wordless telegrams, please help. It was the cry of the lost, the cry of the sinking, the cry of the helpless, the utterly helpless and hopeless. Several years sober, folks. I mean, it must have been at least 7 years sexually sober. 7 or 8 years sexually sober. At least 7. And the cry went out. And I went down and picked up the keys and came back up with my eyes open, and I never saw anything. And I felt a presence, an invisible shield between me and that image. A personal presence of life, of indescribable, quiet joy and peace and love and protection. And I was free. The rest of the line I was rejoicing in my heart, praying for her, and just, I could have died and gone to heaven. Now that was the turning point when I discovered a better way. If there is no God, there is no answer. I began to discover the higher power who was keeping me sober and who wanted to deliver me from the power of lust and who wants to deliver me today from that same power of lust as I walk out of this room or stay in this room, in the lobby or whatever. And today, I'm jumping from the beginning of my lust history to the end, where I am today. Today, by the grace of God, I don't know how to describe this without just telling you the truth of how I see it. The shield of that presence is within me. And I still want to lust. But I don't have to. One temptation at a time. How did it happen? That's what I want to tell you about. How did it work? I tried to write a brief history of the key elements that brought me to where I am today. When there was nothing else, there was meetings. The meetings were the reductio ad absurdum of my recovery. With nothing else inside of me, no program, no sponsor, no steps, nothing. All I had was meetings. And I had to have that. Even when in every single meeting, I don't care whether it's AA or SA or anything, any other meeting, there's always been one of you that I don't like. Can't stand. And that was later to be one of the great keys of my recovery. Because as you'll see from my story, the step that means the most to this answer of where I am today with lust is the 10th step. I hope I can convey this to you. So the meetings started first. The second thing I was doing was giving it away. In my first year, I went to the court where they bust the Johns, busted Johns come in and they haul them up, and I found my mark and I talked to him after and I said, hey, my name is this is my phone number. I used to do the same thing. I got busted for it, and look, there's a way out. I'm using the AA program to stay sober. The man was speechless. He was like Michelangelo's guy being dragged to hell in the chapel. You know, he's going down, and it's that moment of utter, absolute recognition of eternity. And he didn't say a word. He took my card and just walked away. Never heard from the man. He'll never be the same. Okay, then the 4th and 5th steps. Finally, after that step, I guess they're doing this, so I better do it. I didn't have anybody take me by the hand. They said, keep coming back, that's all. Nobody said, here's an interim sponsor. Nobody did what is doing in a marvelous resurgence of our program locally, where people will confront you and ask you if you're sober and if you have a sponsor, and get somebody for you that day. So I did that. It was a ridiculously simple 4th and 5th step, but it opened the door to being honest. Because then the one thing he did say was, oh, Carl, he said, I want to stop hearing about your wife. I want to stop hearing about, what are you going to do about it? So that opened the door. And in AA, I began to be confronted by others. I was very painfully ego-driven, and I'd be cringing after every meeting where I opened my mouth. But I started to tell the truth on myself. Here again, I was not, there's no step Nazi hounding me on this page of the book or this step or what are you on now, 6, 7, 8, 9, nothing. But I began to tell the truth on myself, and then I met a young man named Kevin, not the Kevin from Dallas, but another Kevin locally, and he and I wanted sexual sobriety. There was no SA, there was no fellowship, and we'd go to AA meetings together and we'd talk, and this man was 21 and I was 49. He was a high school dropout, I was a college graduate, nothing in common. The sexually acting out was in a different mode, whatever, but we wanted sobriety. We'd call each other almost every day, and I'd say, Kevin, there she is, she's walking down the aisle, she's got it on a silver platter, micro mini skirt. I'm dying, my guts are in an uproar. And I just want to tell you this, to break the power, to tell you this in God on the telephone, to break the power this has over me, because I'm lost. And he'd say, yeah, I was by Ralph's on Santa Monica the other day, and there, that thing wasn't. And so, we weren't sponsoring each other, we weren't giving advice, I couldn't tell him what to do, he didn't tell me what to do, we didn't know one step from another. But I made a connection with another human being and God. That was my God connection. And I can't tell you whether this comes before the post office or not. Oh, well, this gets way before the post office. Right. Way before the post office. Anyhow, one of the other things was the 10th step with my wife. My wife and I have been married for 30 years and 17 years of recovery. The first 2 years of our marriage were the greatest hell of our marriage. And I kept trying to control her and change her and get her to go to program and everything. And by God's great gift, she resisted me at every step. And so I had to start looking at myself. Go into the garage and write down, where was I wrong? And most of the time, all I could do was give her a note and saying, hey, I was wrong. I was wrong. The 10th step amends was something I had to do to keep from exploding or drinking or driving myself insane with sex. Because the hurt, without my drugs, I was a cauldron of defective humanity. A volcano of libidinal forces, just surging. The rage, the resentments, the fear. And thank God we went into abstinence for a year at a time, just because I had to, inventory the marriage. Any of you married men in recovery that haven't gone into long, open-ended periods of abstinence where you don't need it anymore, you've missed the whole boat, I think. And then 10 steps with SAs. And that's the toughest. I'd rather make a 10-step amend to my wife. Please, not you, not an SA, not me. It hurts so much. And to this day, I'm not sure whether I have to make an amends to a man that we had yesterday, where I probably unwittingly took advantage of my position to give a viewpoint on the publicity issue, and unwittingly was perhaps a weight of influence that wasn't letting the intergroup here have their own way on it. And so I freely admit that. But anyhow, there's no God if I'm lost in resentment. So, here's the strange thing. It's a God program, right? How did I discover God? By making amends. I don't know how it happened. I didn't discover God. Apparently the amends process just opens the doors inside, so He's there, and the presence is there. There's no presence. There's no shield when I'm full of the stuff. If I haven't surrendered lust. So that process, that discovery in the post office, giving me a new outlook, and then the abstinence giving me a new outlook in the marriage, where I discovered sex without lust for the first time, led me to the deeper third step. That's when I began to discover the principle of the third step. At first, I think we have to, there's kind of an order here with these steps, and we've got to get into it, and I believe as fast as we can and as hard as we can. We've got to break the step barrier. Sometimes that's the only way to do it. I didn't do it that way because I had no mentors. I had no people. I had sponsors all over the place, but they weren't step people. They didn't guide me. So I stumbled through it. I was rediscovering the principles of the steps by the pain and lengthy process of experience. That's why the principles now are active in my life most of the time. And without, I couldn't do it. So I began to discover the one keeping me sober. So I had, turned my will and my life over on the third step. Sure, I did this the first week. But today, I turn every day my will and my life over. I turn my sexuality over to God. I turn my orientation over to God, my misorientation, because I am misoriented to women. I, the so-called heterosexual luster, don't believe it. I'm a pseudosexual, anti-sexual, because my whole sexual experience worked against my sexuality, against the reality of my being and that of others, and is false. A negative falseness that destroyed my sexuality. My maleness, my humanness, my manhood, my fatherhood. And so today I surrender that and ask Him to keep me sober. I give that back to Him. And it's scary. It's scary. Because I'm not healed from my misorientation to women or to men yet. It's a very, very, very slow process. Most of you are probably ahead of me, and some of you are, and it's a marvelous thing. A marvelous thing. Did you notice in the anatomy of a look the distortion that comes in? There's the image, a real person, a real human, either in a photograph or in person. There's that person. But when I juice it up with lust, there's the distortion. It's something that is asexual. Lust is asexual. It's not heterosexual or homosexual or bisexual. It is it transcends. It goes way beneath. It's the common denominator. It just has no, totally asexual. It's driven by the God, the self-God. Then I discovered, as I was getting more confidence, I discovered the quiet time. Listen, when I started, and the people in AA, just suggested it gently. Well, I'll try it. Meditation is 60s Eastern stuff. They can have that, but I'll do a little bit of 24-hour day book, and I'll ask God to keep me sober, and I'll do that. And so I was working as a technical writer, and I'd get up and do that, and I'd start meditating, and the noise, the lust, the images, the memories would just crowd my head, full of noise, and I couldn't do it. And my sponsor in my 3rd year of sobriety said, I don't go into a closet and pray. If I do, I take in a 45 with me. And I experienced that once I started meditating in the morning. But I did it. But I'd stop. I didn't push it. A few minutes, and that started, boom, out I go to work. But I kept it up. And I found out that something was happening. 1 minute more. I didn't time this thing. But today, this is the best time of my life, is an hour in the morning. If you want a confrontational piece of advice on sobriety, you're not staying sober. Here's another one. Set your alarm clock at least a half hour early and do something for yourself and find God. Find your God. Part of this whole process of discovering and of continuing to rediscover the shielding presence of the living God. That's all I can say. It's my opinion. Anything you hear me is my opinion. Part of it was my addiction to the media. First thing I discovered was a television addict. And so if you go in my journals, the history, I'll try to stop and put it down cold turkey, and then I'll go back. And just year after year in my current sobriety, putting television down and then picking it back up. And finally, I came to the conclusion that it had nothing to do with content. The reason I'm saying this, somebody asked me about this yesterday, and they were very, very concerned about it. It has nothing to do with content. That's just the obvious thing. We live in an image-driven culture since the turn of the century that has changed human ecology. It's alienation-free. We're alienated because of an image-driven culture. Read Susan Sontag's book on photography. Every sex drunk should read that book. It's a very difficult book. It's the most perceptive, critical analysis of the impact of still photographic images on the human race, on the human organism. Unbelievably powerful. She's a prophet in the psychology of the image connection. And beyond that, we've got the movie image connection and everything today, and our culture is image driven. So I found out that I was drunk the next morning, that I had to have it to go to sleep, that I didn't feel good, that it shut out God's presence, whatever, irrespective of the content. And so I just put it down. Now I'm not a fanatic about it. Once in a while, I saw the Pavarotti, I saw the three tenors sing in Rome, the video of that, and I sat down and watched that. And but I knew I'd be paying a price, because I knew that just doing that, the craving came back, and I just wanted to sit down. And the next day, I'm an image junkie. The same with movies, and I haven't resolved that yet. I went into abstinence on movies, and then out of it, and in and out of it, and the same principle applies. These are tremendous forces that alter our humanness and alter our human ecology, irrespective of content, and we must come to deal with them. If you're like I am, we must scientifically, experientially look at them honestly. And the reason I'm bringing this up is in the history of SA meetings I've gone to, how many hundreds of times have I heard not of just slips happening, TV and movie slips, and that's nothing. The slip is nothing. It's what's it doing to me. I want me. I used to lose myself. But I have to have something better. I can't just have a vacuum in my life. That's why we're going to need a deeper fellowship in SA. See, I think we're blessed in our illness. I don't call it a disease. It's a loaded word. That's for the professionals. It's an illness or malady. I think we're blessed because I could not do it on putting the plug in the jug and addiction to meetings and a socialized spirituality. That'll do it for my alcohol or other stuff. Think of that now. We can get that kind of sobriety. Socialized spirituality and addiction to meetings will keep me sober, but not from lust. I need a deeper sobriety, a deeper recovery, a deeper higher power, and a deeper fellowship. What an adventure. And I'm just at the beginning. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what marriage is. I don't know what sexuality is. God does. And He's leading us. And He's leading you. And He's leading me because He's leading you. And I can't do it without you. I'm going to close on one thing. And it's a whole new topic. It's a whole new subject. I call it the new warfare. Okay, lust. There is a spiritual remedy for lust. Capital R. There is one whom we can discover. And you know what? Speaking of the 12th tradition, this is something that just came to me last night. The God, the higher power, who is keeping me, who is the shield in my life today, one keeping me sober, leading me, my shepherd, apparently chooses to stay anonymous in SA. Some of us would like to, take him out of the closet here and there, but he's working anonymously today. But he's here. Do you believe that?
Yes.
I believe that. Say amen. Amen. Okay. And I want to be part of it. I don't know how, because I'm afraid of you people. And I know you're afraid of me. Let's do it.